Hey, welcome to another edition, the winter meetings edition of the Locked On Astros podcast. Jake Myers, Chaz McCormick, who's in center field, Jordan Hicks, and some random backup catchers we're going to talk about. So much to get into. Let's start right now.
Welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on X at Eric Talkstros. You can find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. Brett, where can I find you at on this lovely Tuesday evening?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on X, Instagram, and TikTok. They can find me at Stros411 on X, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, always Stros.
Guys, thank you for making the Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Whether it's on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to us. Go and make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Check us out. Become an everydayer. Somebody that listens to our podcast every day. We appreciate everybody that does it and comments after the show and becomes part of the Locked On Astros Nation. We're going to be here for you all off season. Whether the Astros are doing something or Astros are not. But it sounds like Dana Brown is very optimistic that something's going to happen. So guess what, guys? Tomorrow, he's going to Starbucks. That's what's happening, guys. He's going to get his Starbucks. But in all seriousness, he does feel like progress is being made at the winter meetings. The Rule 5 is going to be happening tomorrow as well. So that's something to be discussing. Shohei Ohtani, did he meet with the Dodgers? Wait, we weren't supposed to know he met with the Dodgers, Dave Roberts, but apparently the Dodgers are hiding that now. But we don't know where he's going, but apparently it's not the Cubs. The Cubs have said, yeah, we can't afford that guy. But there's a lot going on. And I know I talked yesterday about Shohei Ohtani possibly going back to Anaheim, which is kind of a big surprise. But we do have some Astros news. There's been actually a lot of talk about the Astros. And right after I recorded the show last night, we had a lot of talk about Jordan Hicks and Hector Neris being talked about in terms of the Astros bullpen. Chaz and Jake Myers. I know this is something I did discuss yesterday, but there's been some more kind of developments that we'll discuss today. There's a limited budget. This is not new, but how is this actually going to affect maybe Alex Bregman in the future? And backup catching options, they're very slim. Who's out there? And what exactly progress is being made? Welcome back, Brett.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's interesting that we're mentioning Hector Neris because he's a guy that I think has probably priced himself out of the conversation because he did turn down the $8.5 million player option, which he could have signed. If he would have done that, that would have probably been a bad thing because it probably would have pushed him over the threshold, wouldn't it? I mean, we're not that far from it.
Right.
But Hector Neris,
about $5 million.
Yeah. So Hector Neris coming back, I mean, I would love it. I freaking hate the fact that I can see him in another uniform next year. I can't stand that thought, actually. He's just one of those guys. But, it sounds today like they are looking towards internal candidates. And look, I'll tell you right now, Ronel Blanco is down there in the Lidom Winter Ball League. He's thrown 41 2/3 scoreless innings. He's got a streak going right now, and he's doing some big things down there. He's working out. I keep up with his Instagram. I'll be interviewing him soon for Locked On Astros and talking to him, finding out about where he's from. But look, he's getting ramped up and ready to go. And so we may have the internal candidates and may not have to go outside. But if we're looking outside and we're not looking at Neris, I think Jordan Hicks is a name that I like, that I called on Cyber Monday, is one of the targets I would love, a hard throwing guy. What kind of role would he take? And that would be for debate. You can't have the closer role. That's Ryan Presley's job. But he definitely is a valuable guy, but how much is he willing to come here for? Is he willing to take a little bit less with the Astros and sacrifice that for possibly winning a ring? Because look, he's been in Toronto, Eric. That team has grossly underperformed, and they have lacked veteran leadership. They've had these young guys coming up, and I just don't think they're going to get it done without a veteran in the box, and their pitching just falls apart. So Jordan Hicks is looking elsewhere. So,
Well, don't forget he came from the Cardinals before that too. So
well, that's true. Well, that's true. And so, but he wants to win. And these guys, when they get into baseball, they want to go to the World Series. And we forget that the Astros were one win away from going back to the World Series. And I would say, sorry, D-backs fans. I think if we go to the World Series, I think the Astros easily take care of the Diamondbacks. I don't think the Diamondbacks are any sort of competition for the Rangers. I don't think they would have been competition for the Astros. And so at the end of the day, we're pretty close. Everybody's acting like the sky's falling, Eric. Everybody's acting like we're done. We're not done. We still got a majority of the guys.
Yeah.
But would you be willing to go over the CBT for Neris? I mean, look, I think he's valuable, but I think he's going to demand a pretty high salary.
Well, if you're looking at what Spotrac says his market value is, it's actually $7.6 million.
Really?
So it's actually lower than he was actually going to get paid the player option he turned down. So
wouldn't he get more by default because of what they paid Neris? I mean, what they paid Montero?
I think what he was hoping for is that, yes, he could get maybe that Rafael Montero money, but then he didn't realize that there's a new general in town, and that new general is not going to go out there and pay a lot for that muffler to bring back that reference. But so
keep trying to throw us to that ad from 2 years ago, dude. Come on.
It's not 2 years ago. It's like 20 years ago. This ad. It was that wrestler. It was that boxer, not Mike Tyson, but the other one. And he was like, I'm going to go Mikey and I'm not going to pay a lot for that muffler.
You talking about George Foreman?
George Foreman. That's who it is.
George Foreman from Houston. Yes.
Yes.
George Foreman.
But also, so his market value is 2 years at 15 million. So if you're going to get him to come back, you're going to have to probably give him a slight raise. And that's going to be probably 2 years at maybe you're going to have to pay him maybe 17 million or so. I don't know. I really don't know what you're going to do, because I know that the reports are that they are talking. And I know Jordan Hicks, what is his market value? If you're looking at what his market value is, I'm trying to find it, but because there's a linebacker as well named Jordan Hicks. So his is actually $3.4 million per year. So his is actually a little bit lower, but he's probably going to be going for that closer money as well. So, but he's not going to beat a closer here, but possibly there's a chance that, let's say Ryan Presley doesn't return for 2025, come win a World Series with the Astros, and then you could beat a closer in 2025. That's, I think, what the Astros are selling to Jordan Hicks. We can't pay you a lot, but what we can do is we can say, hey, come here. We'll go ahead and you'll be kind of the back end of the bullpen type of guy. And then if you do well this year, you can compete with Brian Brayu next year for the closer. So, but his market value is 2 years at 6.8 million. I know he's going to get more than that. So I know the Spotrac evaluation is a little bit lower than that.
Yeah.
Right. A little bit low.
Well, Spotrac goes with, they go with trends, they go with market and all that stuff. At the end of the day, it's very hard to predict because of agents, because of players, because of teams, right? Sometimes teams will give more, a la Rafael Montero, because I really think the Montero thing was like, you earned it. We're going to give you this. They probably knew he probably wouldn't have another chance to earn this kind of money. And sometimes you do that for a guy. Now it kind of upsets the market because he's the 5th highest paid relief pitcher. But I think those things do come into play. I talk about that all the time with my friend Mark. But, Jordan Hicks, Eric, is a very good young pitcher. This kid, he recorded 14 saves in 2019. He recorded 12 saves in 2023. He didn't have any saves in 21 or 22, but it didn't seem like he was in that closer role. But he did have 6 saves in his first season in 2018. So he definitely has it. He's only 27, as to where you got your guy Presley, who is what, 33, 34. And so you're probably not going to sign, because by the time you re-sign him, he would be 35, turning 36. You don't want to sign him to a multi-year deal. So Eric, I like where you're going with that. It makes sense, but there are some issues with the budget and with it being limited, and we'll talk about that. But first, I want to talk about some other things before we get to Chase and Jake. Hey, this episode is brought to you by Jace Case. Our friends at Jace Medical have something special to bring to you. I know that we go to sports to escape the realities of life. So let's talk for a minute about preparing for those realities. Whether you're on extended travel, bracing for a major weather event, or limited by yet another supply shortage, you are covered, my friend. Thanks to our partners at Jace Medical, life-saving antibiotics and a long list of daily medications can be ordered in a 1-year supply, even ED generics for Cialis or Viagra. Jace Medical has the Jace Case. The Jace Case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, and skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us. Visit jacemedical.com and complete your physician encounter. A board-certified physician will review it, and a licensed pharmacy will dispense your medications at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. So go to jacemedical.com, that's JASE medical.com, and use the offer code LOCKEDON and get $20 off your order today.
Hey guys, go ahead and check it out. If you like sports talk and you like it 24/7, why don't you check out Locked On Sports Today? It's a 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts like us at the Locked On Astros podcast. And it covers every sport around the league, around all sports. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming station. All right. So speaking of streaming or trolling, so to speak, I love what the Space Cowboys have done. And I do love what, especially what the Hooks have done. The Space Cowboys, they took their time to go ahead and Photoshop Shohei Ohtani in their jersey. But the Hooks, they did a kind of a Huysman type job, let's just put it that way. And they kind of sketched like the Whataburger jersey on
Right.
Shohei Ohtani and saying we have breaking news. But yeah, we all know that that's a joke. He's not going to go play minor league baseball. That'd be like going back and playing independent ball with the Skeeters back in the day. So yeah, that's not going to happen. But it's just kind of fun that some of these minor league baseball teams are doing it. But a funny thing that you're bringing this up, the limited budget, before we get to Chaz versus Jake. The Astros do have a limited budget, and I know that we don't know exactly the number because you have the arbitration, you have all the numbers that you have the players who are pre-arbitration that you have to give them money, and we just kind of have estimated values that we think the Astros might offer them. But there's about $5 million under the CBT. So there's a lot of ramifications of what happens. And one of the things, I know that Michael Schwab brought this up today or yesterday. He said well, if the Astros go over the luxury tax threshold and you let Alex Bregman walk, he does the qualifying offer. The difference is if the Astros go over the luxury tax threshold this year and they're in violation, the difference is instead of getting a pick after the first round for Alex Bregman, you would get a pick after the 4th round. And my response to that, I'll tell you in a second. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, immediately I think of our farm system and how depleted it's been. And again, I'll say it until people are sick of hearing it, that yes, the Astros were punished for 2017. They were taken from us 4 picks, 2 first round, 2 second round, 2 years in a row. And that absolutely can wreck a a team's minor league system. And despite that, we still have guys that we produce at a major league level. So tip your hat to the minor league coordinators, tip your hat to guys like Jason Bell, to Joe Thon, to Mickey Story, to all the guys, Rafael Pena, who came through, who's no longer with the Astros, Elvis Rodriguez, all these guys that take part in this. Look, I don't like losing Alex Bregman for nothing. And I definitely don't like losing Alex Bregman and then only getting a 4th round pick. This is a guy you pick
after the 4th round, Brett.
Well,
yeah, I know.
4th round, 5th round, it's not after the 1st round, which
Right,
means the drop off is considerable unless you find a diamond in the rough. Now, maybe you trust your evaluators enough that maybe they see, and I don't know what they're looking at right now, but maybe they see a draft that's deep enough to where they're not going to be that ill affected because maybe it's a good year. But that's a lot to bet on. And I just really think, Eric, that if the ramifications are that, and you're not going to trade Bregman and you're going to let another star walk and not get anything for it, you might as well go for broke and just go over it. Why does a draft pick have to be involved anyways? I know they agreed to it, but that just seems stupid to me. Charge them 20%.
Teams don't go over. They follow the rules. It's just so teams follow the rules.
Your teams that go over are always going to go over. It hasn't prevented anybody from going over. The same teams that go over are still going over. The same teams that don't go over don't go over. I just, I don't know. Like at the end of the day,
let's talk about the Pirates going over the luxury tax threshold.
Well, no, they're obviously not. They aren't interested in winning a World Series. We know that. Look at the uncertainty that team is. Gosh, I feel for Ethan. Ethan is dedicated. Ethan over at Locked On Pirates is dedicated. I couldn't be a Pirates fan.
How many fingers am I holding up, Brett?
Well, 4 fingers and 1 thumb, but go ahead.
Okay, that's how much money they have, how many $1 million they have to spend. Right. What type of reliever and catching combination can you get for $5 million? And are you expecting to make any type of trades at the trade deadline to upgrade your roster in case you need to make another run for the World Series? So I think that if there's a chance for another World Series, parades are better than prospects. And so if you got to go all in, get what you need to get done. And so, yes, I would love to have that pick after the 1st round. If the Astros start off the season with a below 10 games below 500 or 15 games below 500, they start sucking up, then sure, we can try to find a way to get underneath the luxury tax threshold. Hey, by the way, the Major League Baseball is not going to change the rules. You remember what the Angels did? They dumped all their salary at the end. They traded for Lucas Giolito, and then they dumped him right before the deadline to set your luxury tax or the threshold or whatever it's called. So there's ways to wiggle your way out of it if necessary down the stretch. But if you're in it to win it, you got to go over the luxury tax threshold. And I know that Jim Crane has only done it once, and that was for Zach Greinke. And for the right player, he will do it. But at this point, $5 million, that'll get you a foot long from Subway.
Wait, dude, inflation's terrible. Wait, a foot long is $5 million.
You know what I mean?
Good Lord.
In terms of a baseball player, it's going to get you.
That's why I go to Jersey Mike's. They're only $500,000. No, and seriously, Jersey Mike's too. They got a slamming sandwich. But I digress. $5 million. Man, inflation sucks right now. But seriously, Eric, I can get on board with that. And honestly, either way, I'm not going to lose sleep over this or be upset. I am going to be upset if I feel like they don't make an effort to put a championship team on the field. I don't know that they have the roster right now to contend. I think we were 1 game away this last year, but we're losing Neris. We need to replace him with somebody. And I'm sorry, you probably are going to have to go over that because with the inflation of salaries, you've got guys like Sonny Gray marketed at $20 million, getting $25 per year for 3 years. You can't tell me that you're going to go, okay, well, all we have is $5 to play with. That to me makes no sense. And, you know, I just, but if you're going to go over, you might as well go over big. I mean, go big or go home. Get one of these Japanese players, dude. Like, seriously, let's just go for broke and let's win this World Series because if the window's closing, you know, Bregman's out the door. You're not going to pay him $300 million. You're going to pay Altuve. You got your priorities set. Just flip it, man. Let's go for 2024 and let's win it all. Let's get greedy, you know?
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But in a second, we will address what Dana Brown had to say. We heard yesterday. I talked at length about it in yesterday's podcast about what Joe Espada had to say about the center field controversy. Yes, it's a controversy again, and now we're going to go ahead and discuss that in a second. And then also, what are the backup catching options? It's depressing, guys. It's depressing out there. Outside of Martin Maldonado, it's if you look at the names out there, it's like, wait, who? And then also Dana Brown says progress is being made. We'll talk about that in a second. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of today with local experts like us at the Locked On Astros podcast, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports streaming 24/7 platform. And go Stros.
You always got to throw in that Ghost Rose, don't you?
Yes. So speaking of Ghost Rose, I know that Dana Brown is up there trying to improve the team. And he said one of the things that he did address before we get into the market is that he did say that Jake Myers will get a chance to be the primary center fielder next season. And the Astros plan to play Chas McCormick regularly between left and center field. Don't forget that Alvarez will probably play some left field, but to rest his knees, they'll probably play him a lot more at DH. And Dana Brown basically said, we want to see what Myers can do. They think that he's got elite defense, and they want to see what he can do offensively. And they feel like with injuries and everything that happened last year, they still have not really seen the true Jake Myers. So what does that mean for Chas McCormick? He's not a big boy yet. He does not get to put his big boy pants on. He's going to be shipped to left field. I'm just kidding.
And look, I'm surprised not from the aspect of the Jake Myers portion of it. Right. I'm surprised coming at it from the Chas McCormick because to me, he was a top 10 center fielder last year. Last year, he was one of the best. He was second in basically balls hit with high velocity fastballs, four-seam fastballs. He was number 2 in the league. This dude, like, literally was on the bench for 3 games in the playoffs whenever they started Dubon instead, and Chas McCormick had the second best hard hit rate off of four-seam fastballs, and they did that. They sat him. Dusty sat him 3 different times against pitchers that threw four-seam fastballs. So remember how Dusty said we would thank him. Thank you, Dusty, for doing that. I don't understand what Chas McCormick has to do to be declared the starter. I don't know why the Astros can't say this. Look, Chas McCormick has earned the starting position, but because of injuries and setbacks, Jake Myers has been in the wing. So what we're going to do is we're going to let it play out. And we think that Jake Myers does have it to be the starting center fielder, but we're going to make it be a competition. We're going to flip-flop these 2 guys between center and left. And we're going to see who wins it out. To me, that's a better message than,
that's what I discussed yesterday.
Yeah, I just feel like that's not fair to Chas McCormick. Of course, Chas is a team player. Chas isn't going to cry about it. The fans are going to be more upset about it than Chas is. But you better believe that Chas is going to ball out in 2024. And this is no disrespect to Jake Myers because one of my first interviews in Sugarland was with Jake Myers. Great kid. I love his mental makeup. I love his knowledge of the game. I love his drive and desire to be excellent. And he has been injured and he has had some bad luck in the majors. So I understand the eye test. I understand the mentality of a fan. What have you done for me lately? You know, kind of like when Tucker came up and everybody thought he was a lazy guy just because he wasn't this bubbly personality.
Right.
Look, Jake Myers has a lot to prove. And last spring training, I go back to the conversation I had with him at spring training. He said, "Look, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I'm hitting the ball well. My shoulder's feeling good." So I'm hoping I get back to spring training and talk to him again, because that'll even be a more fun conversation. Maybe we can get him on the show to talk about it, because both of these guys are going to compete. Maybe it drives them to be better. Maybe it's not a bad thing. But my thing is, what does Chaz have to do to prove himself with this organization?
All right. And so I'm going to just kind of throw this up here. The key word is a chance. A chance. So
Okay.
in spring training, if it doesn't work out, if he's just striking out left and right, his defense doesn't look right, then it's not going to work. They'll give the job to Chas McCormick. They need to find somebody to play left field. But I think that anytime you make competition, especially for somebody like Chas McCormick, who's been chomping at the bit to be the everyday player
No pun
for all these
intended.
years, right? But he's got to. You don't want to just say he's not Jose Altuve. He's not a big boy. In that respect, I do get it. So you want him to have that hunger, like I talked about yesterday. So I think competition in spring training is a good thing. And if that's what Joe Espada and Dana Brown are doing here, hey, Chaz, we love you. We love your defense. We love your hitting. We want to see what this guy can do. Go out there in spring training. If you outplay him, if you show us good center field, we'll go and put you out there. So we'll see. But you know who else is trying to make a great impression this spring training and who's kind of out of options? Forrest Whitley. Forrest Whitley was granted a 4th-year extension, so to speak. So the Astros didn't have to make him a minor league free agent. So he can stay with the Astros. And he's throwing 98 miles per hour. And I know that Dana Brown said they plan on inviting him to spring training and to try out as a reliever. And so you're probably going to see a lot of people like him try to come make an impact. Seth Martinez, Brandon Belak. Speaking of Brandon Belak, he is literally out of options. So you may have to end up trading him, because if you bring him up, you're going to have to put him on waivers and some team could claim him. So that could be a way to maybe get some space on the active roster.
Definitely. First things first, I want to tell Forrest Whitley, congratulations. Him and his fiance Courtney got married. They got married in Seville, Spain. Yes. And just recently, really, really cool thing to see that. And like you said, he's throwing like 98. And the Astros have made it clear that, look, he's going for a relief pitching role. And I remember talking to guys like Joe Record and talking to guys just at the minor league level. And they said, look, if I'm a minor league starter, but I'm a major league reliever, I would rather be a major league reliever than a minor league starter. So Forrest Whitley really has stayed with it. And I think because of that, he's earned the chance to be on this big league roster. And I'm excited for that, Eric. But look, they just came out, and we haven't really gotten to this yet, talking about these backup catching rules. There was a tweet that just came out while we're on, and Chandler Rome, and maybe you have this in your notes about this Victor Caratini. Okay, he's one of the names I think you were going to list, correct?
I believe so.
Okay,
what's up?
So Houston is interested in him. 3 people with knowledge of their plans said on Tuesday, producing a possible partnership that could aid at 2 positions, catcher and first base. Last year, he had a 296 BABIP. So he's a guy that has multiple, if you got to rest your Jose Abreu, this guy can play first. You can keep Yainer Diaz at catcher. That's what you want. You want Yainer Diaz to catch, nothing else. And so there's one of the guys, one of your budget guys that you wanted to discuss. The Astros like him. I mean, why not?
Yeah, so if you're looking at the other guys, Brown says the market's tough. There's a lot of teams that need catching, but there's not a ton of catchers out there. But we're grinding through it. I feel like we're getting some pretty good names, and we've had some good discussions. So who are those names out there? We don't know exactly who he's talking to. We've heard Tucker Barnhart. We've already discussed him. He's 32 years old. Austin Wynns was designated for assignment by the Rockies. he's out there. He's more of a defensive guy. You have Kurt Casale. He's 35 years old. He just played with the Reds. Eric Haas. He's 30 years old. He played with the Tigers. Then you have Cam Gallagher. He played 30. He's a great defensive guy. So a lot of these are defensive guys. And I know you mentioned Tom Murphy with the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, you got Tom Murphy. You got Francisco Mejia at 2.5. Look, hey, I'm going to shock you with this name, Eric. Gary Sanchez, 1.6 million. If you can recreate a Gary Sanchez offensive weapon off the bench as a backup catcher, the 2017, 2018 Gary Sanchez, that would be a huge, crazy boost. Now, I don't know that he's going to do that because in the last few years, he really has not produced offensively at all. Has become one of the worst hitting catchers in the league.
Right.
But those names you mentioned, I mean, there's Sandy Leon. I mean, there are a lot of guys out there. Carlos Perez from Oakland was a backup. And so there's a lot of guys. See, Victor Carantini is one of the higher guys at 2.8. Aaron Nola's below him. I think there was some talk about putting him in Philly to be paired up with his brother. Jacob Stallings in Miami didn't have more than his says 3.35. Dude, I'm still kicking the tires on Mitch Garver. I'm still talking to Mitch Garver. He's valued at 3.9 million. He's not going to be a starter. It was like, oh, he's going to be a starter. No, he's not. He's a backup. Mitch Garver knows the Rangers. He knows their pitching staff. I mean, why wouldn't you want that intel?
So we don't know what's happening, but we know Dana Brown said progress is being made. What type of progress? We'll have to maybe wait for tomorrow's show. But guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Go and make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Go and make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify. My name is Eric. He is Brett, and we are the Locked On Astros podcast. And we will see you tomorrow. And go Astros.